What's going on, guys? It's Braden back here again for another BFR here again today. Game 4 against the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto started at 6 p.m. on October 16th, and the Hawks win. The Hawks defeat the Maple Leafs after losing to the Canadiens. They beat the Maple Leafs 4-1, and I had a feeling that Chicago normally does well in Toronto, and it was no short here. They usually lose to Toronto in Chicago and then win in Toronto, so I'm not sure how that works. Coming into the game, Bedard was the 10th number one pick to have a point in his first 3 games. It would not continue on to Game 4. His point streak would end. Hall and Entwistle were in. Zaitsev was also in. Tenorti, Reese Johnson, and Gutman were all out. Shots were 35-21 Toronto. Hits were 42-27 Chicago. Faceoffs 37-22 Toronto. Power play, Chicago goes 1 for 4. Toronto goes 0 for 3. So now the totals for Chicago, 1 for 18 on the power play, 10 for 10 on the penalty kill. They have a really good penalty kill right now. Wall saves 27 out of 30, and Soderblom, great performance by him, saves 34 out of 35. In the first, Radish is saved. Donato has a wrap that's close. Liljegren has a whiff. Foligno on a 2-on-1 is saved. The Leafs were giving up a lot of odd man rushes early. Hawks had the jump. Hall to Donato was saved. Bertuzzi to Matthews was close. Nylander saved. Bedard had a backhand saved, but then at 6:12 it's a Chicago penalty to Entwistle for hooking, which would be killed, because at 5:37 it's a Toronto penalty to Marner for hooking, which would lead to 4-on-4 for a minute 25 and a power play for the Hawks for the remainder of the 35 seconds, which would be killed off. Then at 26.1 seconds, Gregor puts a shoulder into the head of Zaitsev when he was falling. Should it have been a penalty? No, I don't think it should have been a penalty, but the reason I pointed out is because at 22 seconds then, Murphy and Gregor dropped the gloves. I understand sticking up for your teammate, but Zaitsev was falling. It was completely accidental, and then Gregor's shoulder just so happened to go slam into his head against the boards. He would go to the locker room, get checked for concussion protocol. He would come back for the second period, and it'd be fine. So, but Chicago and Toronto each get penalty 5-minute majors for Murphy and Gregor for fighting. In the second period, my fantasy football needs to learn to not bother me when I'm playing a video. Reeves was on top of Perry. Foligno gives him a shove, and no penalties come out of it. 17-1 though, it's a Chicago goal, and it's a one-timer from Mackenzie Entwistle, his first of the season, his first game of the season, from Athanasiou and Kachuk to make it 1-0. The former Blackhawk Jake McCabe is saved. Kachuk to Athanasiou was saved, which would lead to the Entwistle goal. 14:46, that's a Toronto goal to John Tavares to tie the game, though, his first of the season from Nylander and Giordano, and those were some good moves by Nylander to set Tavares up. Nylander really playing for that contract. I was talking to a friend of mine from school who's a Toronto fan, and we were discussing the game beforehand, and he just did not want to talk about it. He said Nylander was the only one who gave a damn well. The Leafs were buzzing in the second period. Tavares was getting some good chances. Bedard is saved. 13:47. Toronto penalty to Bertuzzi for tripping, which would be killed. Klingberg is saved. Perry and Dickinson missed. It was very back and forth. Then at 5:13, it's a Chicago breakaway goal. Corey Perry with his first as a Blackhawk. 4 points in 4 games for a man who's 38 years old. First of the season from Vlasic and Seth Jones. Vlasic had a fantastic pass up the ice. He got that perfectly to Perry. He's easily been the best of the young defensemen for the Hawks so far, and that makes it 2-1 for Chicago. And after Perry scores, he points to the crowd at someone. Not sure if someone was heckling at him during warm-ups or what was going on there, but he made it very clear that he was pointing to someone in the crowd. And then right after, Bedard hits the post, and it nearly made it 3-1. 4:38, Toronto penalty to Bertuzzi for high sticking. Donato's been taking all of the high sticks, and I just really wanted to point that out. Donato's been high sticked a lot, and I'm not sure if he's just got a target on his face or something, or what's going on there. But it would not be killed off because at 2:55, it's a Chicago breakaway power play goal. Tyler Johnson with his third of the season already, third in the last 2 games, from Korchinski, who gets his first point, and Athanasiou with his second point of the night makes it 3-1 going into the second period. And then on that power play was when Bedard hit the post, and then he slammed his stick on the boards as he got back to the bench. Bedard was frustrated. Third period, 12:49, Toronto penalty to Klingberg for hooking, which would be killed. Toronto was looking, both teams pressure. Marner went flying as Foligno's skate blade pops off. That was a crazy sequence. 8:08, Chicago penalty to Entwistle for high sticking, which would be killed, and I was on my toes. I was convinced Toronto was going to get at least a couple here because they were throwing everything at Mrazek. Not Mrazek. Mrazek did not play. Soderblom. Soderblom was standing on his head in the net for that third period, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's no way they're going to make it out of this alive. However, so they kill that penalty from Entwistle. Bizarre chaos as the Leafs are shooting desperately. And then the first holy jump in from Darren Pang happens on a save from Soderblom. What a save he made on Nylander and Tavares. So Nylander hit the post, and then Tavares is there, and he's robbed by Soderblom, who's just standing on his head. Tavares has a whiff. Leafs pull Wall at 4 minutes, and they call a timeout at 2 minutes. And then the bizarredom happens in the final minute. So we're going to go through this in chronological order, even though it's going to sound really weird. So Taylor Hall scores the empty netter with 54.1 seconds remaining. So he gets his first goal as a Blackhawk, right? Wrong. Toronto challenges for offside, and it is offside. So okay. So Toronto challenges, it's fine. Then they play on to 6.2 seconds left in the third, where the Toronto scores. It's William Nylander. The Hawks don't challenge, but it's an official review, and the linesmen then review for offside, and once again the goal is called back. So they reset the clock to 51 seconds when Toronto first entered the zone, and that's what I mean. They were throwing everything at him because they were throwing double what was basically during that time period. So then we're back to 51 seconds. We play down to 14 seconds, where it's a Chicago penalty to Dickinson for cross-checking, which would be killed. In those 14 seconds, Taylor Radish gets the puck with 6 seconds left. It's 6-on-4. He gets it, empty net, shorthanded goal. Taylor Radish with his first of the season, unassisted to make it 4-1. That final minute was bizarre. At one point, it was 4-1, 3-2, 4-1 again, and everyone's kind of standing there like, what the heck is going on here? But yes, the Hawks defeat the Maple Leafs. If you want to look at teams they beat Pittsburgh, and they beat Toronto. Who did they lose to? They lost to Montreal, and they lost to Boston. So their one final game on their road trip is going to be a late one. It's a 9:30 game on a school night for me, and it's going to be a rough one, but it's against Colorado, so who knows? Colorado might dump them in, but we'll see. Taking a look at the standings, as I haven't had the board up the last couple night times I've done this because it's been late when I've done the BFRs. So Chicago, second place. They've also played more games than anyone else in the NHL. Vancouver's had a good start. These 4 teams in the Pacific do not have a win yet. LA, San Jose, Seattle, and Edmonton. Edmonton got destroyed by Vancouver in the first game, and then they lost at home in the second. Who else has had a good start? Ottawa and Detroit both have looked pretty good. Boston's looked good. New Jersey's looked underwhelming, to say the least. Maybe it's probably just chemistry getting back and forth, but Columbus hasn't looked the best. Buffalo, that's a whole other thing. Tampa doesn't have Vasilevsky, so that's excused. Florida doesn't have half their defense and a forward, so that's excused for now. But yeah, that's going to be all I have for you guys in this one. Tell me down below what your thoughts were on this game, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Have a good night. Thank you. Thanks for watching.